Good evening and welcome to the season finale of the Coach's Corner. My name is Kevin Papa. With me, as always, to the right is Coach Ian Bain. Coach, how was your Thanksgiving other than the game?
It was all right. Good to see some family. Have a little quiet.
Yeah, a little downtime. All right, let's just recap the game a little bit. 14-0. Not the results we wanted.
No.
When the wind is blowing that way, as it was up and down, how much of your game book or your playbook gets taken away from you?
Not as much as you'd think. I mean, it matters to some extent, and certainly wind is a greater element in terms of throwing the ball than rain. But
Well, that's what Troy Aikman used to say. You can throw in the rain, throw in the snow, throw in the sun. Can't throw in the wind.
yeah, I mean, it makes some things tougher. But I think we still had opportunities, though. I don't think it impacted the game as much. Maybe we try to run a little more controlled passes than big shots and so on. But both teams got to play in it, and to some extent, yeah. But I don't think as much as people think. I think our quarterbacks and our receivers, they get enough practice. I mean, we do practice in the rain,
Sure.
and we practice in the rain, and we try to take advantage of those days as best that we can. So. I put it this way. I can't think of a time in the game where I was like, oh, shoot, we can't call that because of the wind. Could it have affected some execution? Totally possible. But I think if you asked our kids, they would say it didn't as much as people think. And, we just could have and should have played a little bit better.
Looked like they watched the CM tape. They came out and ran pretty much the same offense.
Yeah.
Three-man backfield. The kid had a good game.
Yeah.
Fourth down, first series especially, just couldn't get off the field.
I think there were 3 fourth downs on the first drive, and we couldn't. And they did a really nice job. They controlled the clock, controlled the tempo of the game. They did a very nice job being prepared for what they thought and felt would be successful against us, and it worked for sure.
Can you tell when you're playing a game like that possessions are going to be limited?
We kind of know going into it. Just given their style in general. I think in the past, King Philip has thrown the ball very well, but I don't think that is their preferred style. If they have it their way, they're going to do exactly what they did on Thanksgiving, and that's run the ball, 40 times to one kid and a steady diet of ISO and power, and that's what they want to be in. So we sort of know that against that opponent. Somewhat, obviously once the game starts, anything can happen in terms of they might have come out with something, trying to do something different, and that would have been fine too. But, I think at this point we sort of always expect that because we're always going to be undersized. I don't think we've ever gone into a game and said, man, we're a lot bigger than they are. Even playing Milford, early on, Milford had a really big line. I don't think anybody would deny they were bigger than us. Andover was bigger than us. OA had some, that might have been the only time we sort of matched up size-wise. Taunton's bigger, Attleboro's bigger, so everybody's bigger. We know that. We own that. We don't hide from it. It's just, we needed to maybe make an extra play or two, do a little better job of coaching. But, they're a good team also. And I think when you look at it ahead of time, if you tell me, before the game starts, you're going to hold KP to 14 points. We're going to take that. And, we needed to answer the call a little bit better.
You hold them 14 points, and you have 2 drives that stall inside their 10, so it could have easily, been a different.
Yeah, and a couple opportunities that we missed here and there throughout the game. But, hey, that's football, and, that's why it's a great game.
All right, so that we go away from that, and let's just take a look at the season. The season ends 7-4.
Yep.
Unfortunately, back-to-back losses to end the season. But what I really take away from it is that for the first time since I've been associated with the program, or I've been watching the program, so that's 10 years now, every game meant something, meaning that every game had some sort of consequence.
Yeah.
You play your regular season to get to the postseason, and you play your postseason games to get a chance to play in the Super Bowl. And, face facts, only 14 teams, 16 teams get to play in the Super Bowl.
Right.
So only 32 teams in the state actually can say that they played every game that meant something this year. And your last game is against your rival, and that's everybody.
Yeah.
So that always means something. And there's over 200 teams in the state.
Yep.
It's got to be something to take away from.
Oh, it certainly is. And that's what we've always said. We want to be playing meaningful games in November. keep building. I think realistically, it's very tough for any team to say we're going to win a state championship every year. So that's never a goal of ours. It's never going to be. We're never going to go into the season and say we need to be the championship team. We want to play like champions, and that has more to do with, again, and I've said it on here before, we talk to our players. It's not about the end result. It's about the process. And, if you just focus on that, it gets you to where you want to be. So playing a meaningful game, that's huge. That's very important to have that opportunity and to compete at a high level. And, that's just what we're trying to do here.
So 25 wins this season. You go 7 wins, 8 wins, 24 wins, 25 wins.
Yeah, as a program.
As a program, up and down the line. I know we don't normally talk about the JVs and the freshmen, but both teams had great years.
Yeah, and I think, too, just thinking back to the first year, I know that there was a lot of unhappy people out there because we weren't very good. We weren't great as a varsity program. We weren't great as a JV program. And the freshman program did some nice things, but, 500 football team. And to get to a point where, you look at the start of this year and, freshman ball-wise, we had under 20 kids, most of the year.
I think we finished with 8.
Yeah, it felt that way.
It's like Texas Friday Night Football.
Yeah, and but to be competitive and to sort of set an expectation, and now winning, the last 2 years, winning 24 games as a program, winning 25 games as a program, that's very important to create, a condition of winning. Winning is contagious, so is losing, and so to get that feeling, we have kids in our program now that can say, I was on a team that beat Mansfield. Maybe it was in the freshman, maybe it was JV. But it doesn't matter. Like there's a confidence that gets instilled over time in doing it that way. And I think that we have a lot of work still to do. And 25 wins this year, we could very well slip back to winning not a lot of games as a program if we lose sight of what got us to being a competitive program and working really hard. So. But it's a good metric, and that's one of the things, part of our culture is looking at the results. You got to look at the results, and then from there you row the boat. And how do we move forward? What is our direction as a program? And it's in some ways losing on Thanksgiving was a blessing. Stinks, nobody wants to lose, but we always say don't waste a loss. And does that sort of refocus? Like no, we have a lot of work still to do, and even as the food's still digesting on Thursday, I know. The staff and I were working on different projects right now, not together, but separately, and sort of planning our next move. And the kids are really excited to get back to work, those that are coming back. So those are great numbers to hear, and we're going to try to keep building on that.
So before we get into more player stuff, the one thing I did notice this year, and you may not notice it at all, you may notice it during the game a little bit now, but the fans from Franklin travel.
Yeah,
I think better than anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I was there. They all get together prior to the game for dinner, go to the games at night. Whether it's in Andover, where I think we outmanned them.
That was a good
all
crowd,
the way up there in the rain, or even I thought on Thanksgiving Day, where we had more people in the stands.
Yeah, the only time that I really get to look at the stands is when there's nobody there. Usually when the specialists are out and we're early in warm up.
Right.
Once we come out of the locker room and run on the field, that's when the stands are full. And I couldn't tell you if we had 10 people or 100 people or 1,000 people, but I'll take your word for it. And I do think that's important. I was told when we took the job that if you can start winning here, this will be a town that will support your program. And it's a town that loves football. They got a great tradition, and there's a lot of people here that are excited to go out to games on Friday nights. And so I think that's shown, whether it's through, the Gridiron Club activities and our golf tournament and the things that we do in the off season. I know we can still do a better job getting more alumni involved, and that's, certainly I'm a part of that too, but we're getting there. And I think every year that we have guys coming back that are our guys and part of the program, and even just, guys show up out of nowhere and they're like, I played here so long ago and I don't know who they are, they don't know who I am, but they still follow the team.
Sure.
and they offer an encouraging word. So I think Franklin is a football town, and hopefully we're just kind of scratching the surface of sort of what we can be here long term.
Okay, so let me ask you this: any player that at the end of last season or in camp this year, you said, I don't know if we're going to get what we're expecting out of this kid, and then really just, wow, blew you away by the way he played this year? Any 1, 2, 3, anybody?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think maybe I'll just kind of rephrase it in the way I answer it. We always try to put kids in a position that we think they can be successful. That's our number one job. So if there's a kid out there that maybe isn't as good, right? And obviously every kid, sometimes we sort of call it our Madden rating, right? We all have a Madden rating.
Sure.
And it's then
If you
from
play
the
Xbox.
speed and all that. Yeah. So we kind of all have that, and but our job is whatever your rating is to put you in a position to be successful. And I think we had a lot of kids that just they stepped up when we needed to, or when we needed them to. So there aren't a lot of kids that we would put out there that we don't have confidence in. But I think there's just a lot of names. It'd be really hard.
Yeah,
and,
I'm not.
and-
Yeah,
And I don't want to leave anybody
Sure.
out. But I guess a name that kind of stands out, and not to slight anybody or have forgotten anybody, but is Grady Ellis. And in that Taunton game, we had Owen was out, Gula was out, Quintina was out pretty much all year. And we were kind of back and forth between Ellis and then we have Jack Nally, who we know can run the ball too, but when you kind of take him out of his sort of hybrid role, then it's, well, who do you have to play that role? And truthfully, it's probably easier top to bottom to just replace the running back if we could. So
I think at that point you started dressing Keith Nally.
yeah,
We were so thin
well,
at
we
running
just
back.
needed depth, and part of that too is even a kid like Will Pacheco, who we would have been very comfortable with running the ball. We would have put him in good position. He had to play defense, so we just kind of said, "Don't worry about running back right now. You've got to take all the snaps at safety," and he did a tremendous job. So you look at a game like that, and then on both sides, you got Grady on one side, and he stepped up, had a great game, ran hard and tough,
Hell of a game.
and then on the other side, you have Pacheco, who stepped up and did a great job there. So I just think there's a lot of examples of that. I mean, that's just kind of one game that comes to mind. It could be Lackey stepping in. It could be Chip on Thanksgiving stepping in. Larrabee came in as a tight end. We had so much confidence in him as tight end. He played a lot
Larrabee
of
was
tight
the
end.
one I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, but once sort of the opportunity came up on defense, we were like, dude, just go kill it on defense. And we were pretty good. We don't have to get into 2 tight end sets, and we wanted him to focus on just becoming the best at that position he could, which was defense, and he did a great job. Ryan Welch stepped up. It might not show up on the stat sheet, but we needed a dude, and we needed a guy to go in there and be disruptive, and he did some really good things. DeMello against Brockton comes in, gets the last play of the game pressure to seal it, and he was in for an injured Austin Jordan at the time, so it's just, there's a lot of kids, and I think that speaks to our staff a lot, and I think it speaks to our kids, where we preach a message of everybody has to be ready. You don't know when your moment's going to come. It's not going to last forever. You might get one chance in 4 years to start. You might get one chance in 4 years to rush the quarterback. You got to be ready, and it's up to our staff to get them ready. It's up to them to stay mentally ready. So I think the fact that we have a lot of examples to turn to, I think that's a really positive thing to say and a positive thing to look at with our program.
Are there any top plays or moments of the season that you take away from?
And that's another tough one. And again, hopefully we don't. There's a lot of great plays. I think the one that stood out, though, at least just fresh in my mind, was the Andover game. We just beat Milford. That game just didn't feel good. Even though we won the Milford game,
Right.
I think there were a lot of question marks. We were still young at a lot of positions, good players, great kids, but we're still inexperienced, still kind of finding our way. We go up to Andover. We're in a dogfight again. In the Milford game, we answered back, and we were able to seal it, but we were always with the lead. At least it felt that way. And in the Andover game, we're behind late, and 4th and whatever, Nally runs the Viper route right down the middle, and there's a lot of things that could have gone wrong on that play.
Right.
And it was almost like, how is Nally so open? Like, I can remember just kind of seeing it slow-mo in my mind on the sideline. I'm like, he's going to get killed by the other safety or something. There's no way. But just great execution. We had set it up nice. Everybody did their job. We had dudes at the sticks open that had to be covered, which opened up. I really called the play not thinking we were going to throw it to Nally, but everybody did their job. We read it right. We protected great. And the touchdown to seal it with 2:38 left on a 4th and whatever, 50-yard play, like that was huge. But I just think it kind of that was sort of the moment that I think there's a fine line between a sense of urgency and a panic, and I always felt like we never panicked this year. We always were pretty even keeled, even if it didn't go our way, and sort of a sense that we belong and we deserve to win a lot of these games, and regardless of the score at the moment. So hopefully we can keep building on that type of mindset that play the moment, play the play, don't look at the scoreboard, deal with the result when it's over, but focus on the process, play to play, and that just kind of stands out in my mind as something that's a thing that we've talked about so much as a program, and to see it happen was great.
I think my moment of the year was beating Brockton and sending us to the chance to play for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
No Franklin team had been there before. It was just a great feeling.
Yeah, and in Division I, and that's huge.
Right.
I mean, we've had so much success as a school in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, but I mean to do it in Division I and to beat a team like Brockton for the second straight year, and I know Attleboro's final record, might not have been the best, but the talent on that Attleboro team, like again, if you take them and put them in any other league, they're winning a lot more league games, and once league play ended, they lost to us in the playoffs. I think they cleaned up their last three.
Yeah, they cleaned up.
They won the last three, and against good opponents, good quality teams. So, I think we did a nice job.
No, we did. All right, so let's look ahead to next year. I know you're conducting your player exit interviews now. What goes on in those interviews?
I just like to talk and hear from the players. I think, the first year they were really important because even though I knew all the kids, I didn't know them well. They didn't know me well, so they were really important. They went a little longer. I think now the lines of communication are open. They're a little better. I feel like I know the roster very well, know all the kids well. I feel like, at least I hope they know me well enough and kind of know what I expect. It kind of becomes more of those sort of implicit sort of things with our program. A lot of coaches talk about the rules that they have, and we've always said we don't want to be a team that has a million rules. You just need to know how we do things.
Right.
I think when you're there, that means that you're a successful kind of organization, whatever it is, business or sports or the classroom. So when you have those sort of standards and not rules, I think that's a good place to be. So it's just nice now we can just kind of talk about what they thought of the year, where they see themselves, and then I can kind of talk about, what do we need to do to get better, where we see them. It's a chance for really honest feedback, question and answer from me. I've always told the kids I'll never lie to you, even if you don't like the answers, and I never have. It's not. If a kid has a lot of ground to cover, we go over that, and if a kid is close, we go over that, and if a kid is super talented but they need to do the right things outside of football, we go over that too. And so it's good. It's a good chance to sort of reset, refocus, and I like our one-on-one time because, again, as the head coach, I'm in charge of everybody, but I don't spend a lot of time with a lot of those kids if they don't play a position that I coach. Even though I watch them and I see them on film and I watch the practice film every day, I don't get that one-on-one time and always with each kid. So the off season is where I get to really do that.
So you got a great coaching staff.
Yeah.
Very popular amongst the kids.
Yeah.
Do you perceive losing anybody? I know the first year we lost Coach Warnat.
Yep.
Any chance of losing anybody? I mean, there's always a chance.
Yeah, there's always a chance. We've always been open and honest with our coaching staff. I want them to move on if the situation's right, if it's something that is going to better their career, better their family life. If it's something that is something that they want to do and they're passionate about. Coach Warnat wanted to coach in college, and he was like, well, I want to keep doing this too. I was like, yeah, but
It's college.
you're young once, and these opportunities don't come along. At the same time, what kind of moves are guys making? And put it this way, if anybody leaves, it's not because they're unhappy. It's not because they are questioning anything that we're doing. It's but obviously work and family and other opportunities come up. We support all of that. I'd like to, I think I like a guy like Jack Martinelli, and there's other coaches in the league, but since I worked for Jack or Tom Kelly at Framingham State, I know those guys, they don't like to lose coaches, but I know that they're also really proud when other guys go out, and it's nice to still call Coach Martinelli and talk to him and kind of get his advice, like, hey, we got CM, what do you recommend, how should we do a couple things, not X's and O's, but just handling stuff, and one day, hopefully there'll be some of our guys on this staff that are out, and even some of our players that are coaching out there or coaching for us. I really think there could be a kid on this staff that's leading this program one day. So it's all good though. You know, those things move on. If it happens, it happens, and we'll be excited for those guys when they get the opportunity that they feel is right to move on and move up.
And I know we've talked about this on the side, but how do you deal with the rumors that fluctuate after every season that Coach Bain is going to Coach LSU or Coach Framingham or Coach Foxborough or Coach here?
I mean, I can
there.
give you my Verizon statement, but nobody's really calling me. And
I just like it because after the game, I heard you're going to 4 different places. So
I am. Where am I going?
One was LSU's quarterback coach.
Is it warm there? At least that's all my wife asked. She says if we ever do, as I've always told her, and no, I'm not looking to go anywhere. But when I was starting out, you know, coaches they run around to this place, and you're in southwestern New Mexico, Tech, and coaching schools that you never heard of. And I was like, look, if it ever got to that point, we're not doing that. And she was like, look, if you ever did want to go that route, and this is years ago, it's just got to be somewhere warm. So, but no, I don't. It's like anything. I don't put any stock in any of it, but at the same time, you know, it is what it is, you know, with that. So people can say what they want. I've always been open and honest. It's kind of funny. I guess I should take it as a compliment if people think, or they really want me gone. So either way.
2 of them were for people that weren't even at the school, don't even go to the school, or have kids at the school.
That's awesome. Well, no, it's look, it's one of those things where it's easy to say, and I don't mind going on record with. It's easy to say, like, if a good opportunity came up, you'd be silly not to take it. But at the same time, as we've kind of wrapped up year 4. And it's not lip service. It would be really hard to ever say, all right. I can't imagine coaching another high school team ever again. Now, granted, my son's 2.5, and when he gets older, you know, we'll see. But you know, at the same time, like I love these kids. I love the community, the school, and you know, so rumors are rumors, and you know what? As long as people are talking about Franklin, I don't care. It's okay.
All right, so that leads us to our next thing. It's a 2-pronged thing. You have a ton of seniors on the team. You're losing a ton of seniors, which means you're also losing a ton of leadership.
We are.
Not only the 3 captains, but the countless kids that show up to every 5 a.m. run, or every workout, every this. How do you replace that kind of leadership? Have you started already?
I think we've started already in that.
Or do you count on the kids replacing each other?
That's kind of what I think is that. I think the process has started because I think if you ask our kids coming back, and we've only got to have 1 round of kind of exit meetings today because of the snow, a lot of the kids will say, like, they look up to the seniors that have left. They felt that they learned a lot, and they're really fired up and they're inspired. So I think that part of it's started. Obviously, a big part of my job now, especially in year 4, and having great coordinators, is a big part of my job is coaching the culture. That is a part of it. And you know, people throw around culture and they throw around phrases like you change the culture, or you got to do the change. But we have a culture. Everybody has their own. It's not about changing. It's about establishing something that is yours. You know, we define culture as how you connect people.
Right.
And any leader is going to connect their people differently in any business or job, and in our case, a football team. So the fact that in this year 4, the X's and O's are in. We're not overhauling the system. We're not running wing T next year. We're not, you know, we don't run a different offense in all 3 levels of freshman, JV, varsity, or defense, and even down to special teams. It's the same, which is good. So we can really focus on coaching the culture and coaching the things that we believe in, and you know, our core values and our process, and you know, the results, and obviously rowing the boat has become a big part of it. And it's not just a phrase, it's a way of life for our program. It's kind of infused some energy moving forward, I think, for me, but also I think the team, and kind of given us some direction. So I think the leadership is going to come. You know, I learned a long time ago, you can't force kids to mature. They've got to do it on their own. They've got to do it when they're ready. And some kids won't be ready. Some kids are ready when they step foot on campus as a freshman. And we just try to embrace everybody. They're gonna lead differently, and that's okay too. So I'm very confident that I think the last two senior classes especially, not to slight our first two, because they were great kids, but it was all brand new to me
Right.
and to them. These last two senior classes have left a great impact on our program. So I think that that's going to continue
I
throughout
saw a
most.
billion of them at the game the other day.
Yeah, and it's great to see.
It is
And they're
good to
all
see.
doing well in college, and they're happy. And I think they look back at their time here, and hopefully they learn some stuff.
So prong two is with that many seniors leaving, you lose that many starters. Does that make for a longer camp in that you have to now teach kids to be starters? Because you have there's
Yeah.
a handful of 2-3 year starters on
No,
this team.
no question. And you know, that's certainly the challenge. And I think it's also something that we're really excited for, because we get to really coach again. And not that we didn't this year, but you can't take anything for granted. And that's always a challenge, because we always say, like, don't take it for granted, don't assume that they know it. But we really can't take anything for granted. But I hope.
No, at the end, they're still 14, 15, 16-year-old kids.
But I take it as a compliment when we go into our first scrimmage or we go into a 7-on-7, and our kids are on the field, and they don't have a book, and they don't have cards, and they don't have any coaches at all.
Right.
And the quarterbacks are giving the hand signals, and the linebackers are calling the coverages and everything, and they're subbing their own personnel. And coaches come up to us and they say, like, hey, you can
I
tell
saw
them,
that
I'm
Dunquin this year.
I'm not gonna rat you out, but like, what are you guys doing? Like, you guys kind of getting together? Like, we don't do anything. Our kids install everything. We put it on Huddle in the spring. It's not mandatory. It's not anything like that. It's just there. Everybody has Huddle. Everybody has every video. We make teach tape, and the first teach tape from the first camp until last year's camp, we have all those clips. We have every practice rep of every play. If this group coming back can learn kind of how the older kids taught them in the summer and be like, all right, you know, whoever our quarterback is, like, hey, you know, I learned this from Gasparo, I learned this from Gordon, here's how we're doing it. You know, our running back should look at Paul Mary and be like, I remember Owen was talking to me about this. They run all that stuff. I handle
Does
the
Owen
strength and
talk?
condition. I think he does a little bit. Sometimes they're grunts, but no, he does. And
Between him and Wirtz, you could have a silent conversation. So.
And you know, I know sometimes our returning players will come back and they're going off to college and they want to work with the kids. So, you know,
Yeah, I saw
Sean-
Lenny there a lot.
yeah,
This
you know,
year.
Sean's coming in and he wants to get balls. You know, he's going to be a tight end at Assumption again next year. He wants guys throwing to him. You know,
Sure.
Gordo's going to come back. He's got to get his work in. So, let's go. And a lot of those guys handle it for us. And I just think it's a compliment. Like when guys are like, "What are you doing in the off season? You doing like no? It's all on the kids. They know what's expected. There are no surprises." And I think that's really important. So hopefully these kids have learned that sort of off-season process from the older kids, and they're going to be ready, and they'll take the lead without us having to do anything.
So last year you met with Coach Fleck, Coach Brown. Any off-season trips planned yet, or is that something you look at as you go?
It's hard to plan now because unfortunately so much is going to change
Yeah.
at those levels. But you know, obviously Ann Arbor is something that you know we hope we expect to make an annual trip.
What if it's down at Chestnut Hill?
That'd
Just
be-
kidding.
Hey, you know, that's for people that make more money than me to decide. But either way, though, and it's I mean, all speculation aside, you know, the good thing is going to Michigan, we have good relationships with a couple of their coaches there, and you know, there's a few. You know, we have a couple players or coaches on our staff that played Division I ball, and you know, they played. For example, Coach Jenkins was at Miami, but
Yeah, it was a rumor, a trip to Miami.
so Miami, but also all his assistant coaches are gone. So you know, head coach at Oregon was on that staff. We could go to Marshall, and Doc Holliday was one of his coaches, and even the old coordinator at UConn was a GA, I think, on that Miami staff with Coach Jenkins. So you know, there's a lot of opportunities out there. It's just about kind of finding a place and finding coaches that are willing to kind of take you in and let you learn. And you know, we don't certainly want to get in the way, but we do want to get better. And you know, I think the good staffs that are out there, they take every opportunity. And I know listening to Coach Brown and talking with him, you know, when he was at Plymouth or wherever he was, you know, they get in a van and they drive out to Chicago and learn from this coach, or they get in a van and they drive here to learn from this coach. And you know, a young Coach Terrell in that van, I'm sure.
Long hair then.
Yeah, but you know, we just as we expect the kids to lift and to get better, we expect that out of our coaches, and we do the best we can. You know, our kids, they put a lot of confidence in us, and parents do too, and we need to make sure that we're as best as we can be in putting the best product out there.
All right, so we're about 42 weeks away from camp. We'll call it a wrap on this season, the first inaugural season of the Coach's Corner. We look forward to see you again in August. Hey, look, keep rowing the boat. Enjoy your holidays. We'll see you next year, next August, from the Coach's Corner. My name is Kevin Papa. With me, as always, Coach Bain. Out.